Flying types are some of my favorite Pokemon, but they can be defensively challenging, and their early stages, well, all stages are super underwhelming. Can my feathery team fly through Johto in a hardcore Nuzlocke? Let's find out. It wasn't long before I was handed a set of Pokeballs and found my first encounter that ended up being a Pidgey. I caught her and called her Cloudy. Now my first major challenge in this run was Sprout Tower in Violet City, whose Bellsprouts could potentially pose a threat if I was 3 years old playing with a team of Magikarps, but my Pidgey managed to whack these weeds without a challenge. Fully evolved flying types can be pretty strong and pose some of a threat to most Pokemon, but when they're still little chicks, they're pretty lackluster. Which brings me to this run's first true major challenge, the first gym. Faulkner's Pidgey really won't be a challenge, but his Pidgeotto could easily wipe out my Pidgey with no difficulty, so I devised a plan. Unless you want to try it out yourself, Cloudy.
What the fuck?
Okay, moving on. I set my sights on some new friends. I found myself a Zubat on Route 32, which would have normally been an easy catch, until I realized I only had 3 Pokeballs left, and trying to hit the Zubat would almost certainly kill it. Well, I did say almost. After catching myself a Zubat called Rainy, I still decided to fetch myself a Spearow who I called Windy, and with the combination of my 3 Musketeers, I finally made my way to the first gym challenge. Faulkner's Pidgey, although relatively weak, still poses a big threat to this run because of its signature sand attack, and I did not want to take any risks here, so I had to get creative. Or so I thought, because after hitting the Pidgey with a massive pick and nearly taking it out in one hit, Faulkner chose to go for a tackle, dealing a measly 6 points of damage against Windy, letting me finish him off with another peck. Next up was Pidgeotto, who could have potentially ended the entire run here had the Pidgey gone for a sand attack, but since that didn't happen, I was able to get off 2 layers with Windy, lowering its defense by 2 stages, which was just enough for me to have a chance at killing Pidgeotto. After getting hit to just 10 hit points with Windy, it was time to bring out Cloudy and go for the KO. This battle would have been over here after just a few quick attacks, but as fate just had to have it, Pidgeotto got off a massive critical hit gust on Cloudy as I switched her out, letting me only go for 1 quick attack on Pidgeotto before being left at just 9 hit points and having to switch out yet again into my last resort, Rainy. Even just 1 crit here would have been enough to end this entire run, but thankfully that didn't happen, and after getting hit by a couple more tackles and landing a bunch of bites on Pidgeotto, after being left at just 5 health, I managed to successfully take out Pidgeotto, earning me my very first gym badge. I didn't anticipate Faulkner being so tough, so not wanting to take any chances against Bugsy, I decided to go out and find my next encounter, which I did in this Pokemart. It's an egg! All jokes aside, I was determined to hatch this egg, so for the next half an hour, I mindlessly strolled around the world of Pokemon until it hatched into a Togepi, which still isn't a flying type. Togepi evolves through having a high friendship level, but since I'm not allowed to use him in battle, I did the next best thing. I continued walking back and forth for a very long time, and eventually, with the help of a little switch training, I finally evolved it into a Togetic called Snowy and kept on my journey. Although Bugsy's bug types may make him seem like an easy task for my team of flying types, this couldn't be any less true, as with his Scyther's base attack stat of 110 and insane speed, there was no chance I was beating him with my current team, but luckily I had a plan. I headed out to capture my team savior. Now with the help of this Hoppip, not only should I easily be able to deal with rock types, but I should also be able to... I killed it. Fuck. Well, this basically only left me with one option, which was to take on Bugsy with my current team, and oh boy was this the battle of my life. I start this battle off with Snowy, since Scyther's base stat total is literally nearly double of any of my other Pokemon, and his role is crucial in this battle. My only chance here is absolutely blasting Scyther with Charm to cut down his attack stat by as much as I can. I'm actually able to get off 2 charms before he finally chooses to go for a quick attack, and at this point I'm feeling pretty confident because it only ends up doing 10 hit points of damage. Still though, I don't want to risk getting wrecked by a crit, so after hitting Scyther with a yawn, I finally switch out to Windy, who ends up getting hit with a critical hit right off the bat, surviving with just 2 health. Talk about a close call. Since Scyther falls asleep to the yawn after this, I take the risk and hit him with a leer, and as Windy was lucky enough to survive that turn, I switch out right after and send Rainy onto the battlefield. Scyther still ends up sleeping through this turn, which was crucial for this battle, and somehow she still slept through the next turn too, letting me get off a super hard-hitting wing attack, leaving her on low enough health to be 1 hit, even after her citrus berry. Now Scyther finally wakes up from the sleep and manages to score yet another critical hit, bypassing his lowered attack, and once again leaving us with just 4 health. But lucky for me, one last wing attack was enough to finish off Scyther and win us this battle. Or, well, pretty much. Bugsy does still have a Metapod and a Kakuna, but as you can probably guess, a couple of gusts from Cloudy manages to take them both out in no time, earning us our 2nd gym badge. You'd think after being on the brink of loss pretty much every single time, I'd learn my lesson, but as it has it, I completely forgot about my rival battle with Breezes, who is actually way stronger than he should be at this point of the game. Since I wasn't prepared for the battle, his Croconaw could have absolutely destroyed my whole team, but for some odd reason, he only chose to go for a scary face, letting me live another day. I'll have to be way more careful in the future, right? Right? I wasn't too confident in my own abilities, so I took the easy way out and found myself my next encounter, a Weedle. Okay, so I totally didn't think that Beedrill was a flying type, so I used it to beat Whitney, but then had to redo everything up until now. No, that couldn't be me. I hate my life. I then ran into the daycare family, who initially tried to give me their granddaughter's phone number, but by the end of it, I was exchanging phone numbers with her grandpa. Look, don't ask me how that happened, it's just a part of the game. I swear. It wasn't long till I found myself in Goldenrod City, but I wasn't quite ready for the 3rd gym yet, as I had my sights set on Route 35. After Cloudy finally evolved into a Pidgeotto, I started yet another over half an hour long walking session, after which I finally found this route's 1% flying type encounter, a Yanma. Now after all this time, you'd think I'd try my best to not kill it, right? Well, you'd be right. I wasn't even close. I caught him and I called him Misty. At this point, there wasn't much more I could do, which brings me to the 3rd gym leader, Whitney. I sent out Snowy and hit Clefairy with a heavy-hitting flamethrower, which brought it down to less than half health. Clefairy for some reason wanted to learn flamethrower too, most likely to mimic Snowy's coolness, but it was no help as the next hit took her out. Next up, however, was the problem Miltank. With her charm, I knew that there was virtually 0 chance of me KOing her with Snowy, so I did what I had to and went for a charm. Miltank of course decided to go for an attract, but somehow I hit through it. On the next turn, Miltank got off a stomp, and although it didn't deal much damage after the charm, Snowy was immobilized by love. Who could have guessed? And on the next turn, I flinched. On the next turn, though, I didn't get flinched, so I was immobilized by love. Okay, seriously, how is this fair? I was finally able to get off an attack, so I hit the Miltank with a charm to further lower its attack. Although I had a suspicion it most likely wouldn't be enough. I went for a yawn on Miltank, eventually, after which I didn't want to risk a crit, so I sent out Cloudy. My odds of winning this battle were low enough at this point, so I think it's only fair if I go for a sand attack, or 2, or 5. Look, if I'm not allowed to hit Miltank, it's not allowed to hit me either. I then sent out Windy to do my final stat reducing moves. Just a couple of leers. Honestly, it might have been overkill, but this is just revenge for my inner child. Rainy was up next, and I was ready to end this battle off, so I started spamming her with wing attacks. Somehow, I was able to hit her through her charm, leaving her on low health, but this is when she went for a rollout. Rollout does more damage each consecutive turn it's used, so it shouldn't be an issue, unless I was for some reason immobilized. I did somehow manage to get off a finishing wing attack right before Rainy's death, and somehow escaping the 3rd gym battle with no casualties. After seeing Whitney in tears, my team was so excited that they started uncontrollably evolving. Windy turned into a Fearow, Rainy turned into a Golbat, but that wasn't enough for Rainy either, because right after, he just kept evolving and ended up as a Crobat. I know Whitney isn't the nicest person out there, but this is just sick. My Pokemon are a bunch of sadists. Before taking on the 4th gym leader, Ecruteak City had something else in store for me, which was yet another encounter with Breezes, whose team was really starting to become a hard counter to mine. He started off with a Ghastly, whose Confuse Ray of course had to have Snowy hit himself in confusion, after which Ghastly left a curse on Snowy. I did manage to take it out with an extra sensory, but this left my turns limited with Snowy. Next up, the bane of my existence, Magnemite, was sent out. Due to its typing, each one of my Pokemon are hardly effective against it, and its electric type is of course super effective against literally every single one of my Pokemon, so this is not gonna be a walk in the park. I went for a yawn to try and put the Magnemite to sleep, but I didn't even get to try and hit it through the paralysis, because the confusion got to him first. At this point, the curse was really starting to drain all of Snowy's health, so not wanting to risk his death, I switched out to my only hope in this battle, which is Misty because of his Sonic Boom. This move does 20 damage to the opponent no matter what, so thanks to it, I was able to take out the Magnemite in just 2 hits. But this is only a temporary solution, because whenever those steel types become stronger, for example at the 6th gym, I'll no longer be having such a good time. Even now, Misty was barely able to take out the Magnemite due to its paralysis, and finish it off with just 13 health. Now, you'd think the battle is over at this point, but even though Zubat really wasn't a struggle, at this point, our rival's Croconaw has learned Ice Fang, which is once again super effective against literally everybody in the team. I started off by going for a wing attack, to which the Croconaw retaliated with Scary Face. And then another Scary Face. And another Scary Face? Sure, I'll take it. I honestly have so many questions, but at this point, it's just better if we don't know what all this is about and happily accept it. Ignorance is bliss. After that stressful battle, I was finally ready to have a little break, so I decided to quickly go and grab my 4th gym badge. Now, for the first time in this run, I actually had 0 issues with a major battle. Ghastly went down to literally 1 bite, and I wish I could give Haunter its flowers, but it didn't last for very long either. Gengar, however, was a little more challenging. A bite was able to take out over half of Gengar's health, but its Citrus Berry was enough to get it out of that 2-hit KO range, and since another one of his Shadow Balls would have been enough to kill me, I had to switch out to Windy for its normal typing. Gengar's Shadow Ball, being a Ghost type move, didn't affect Windy due to its normal typing, gifting me a free switch out. On his next turn, he hit us with a Sucker Punch, which really wasn't effective, so after hitting Gengar with 2 more pursuits, I was easily able to take it down, leaving us with 1 final Haunter to battle. But after what happened to the last one, I'm sure you can guess how this one ended. And with that, I earned myself my 4th gym badge. After getting tasked by Jasmine to fetch her Ampharos some secret medicine, cocaine, I headed straight to Cyanwood to get it for myself. Ampharos. For Ampharos. I was in the mood for a gym battle though, so I decided to take on Cyanwood Gym without much preparation at all. The 5th gym leader, Chuck's team, is consisted of only flying types, so this shouldn't be a challenge. Or that's what I thought. Okay, I'm just kidding. It really wasn't too bad. He started off by setting out his Primeape, who somehow tanked my wing attack on literally 1 health, and then had the nerve to try and double team against me, which of course worked in his favor, as I missed my shots, letting him heal up to full health. He then got off yet another double team after my wing attack left him at 1 health yet again. But as they say, the 3rd time's a charm, and I was eventually able to take it out. Poliwrath is up next, and this guy is way bulkier than the last. I was able to outspeed him and hit him with a wing attack, which did major damage. But once again, his Citrus Berry prevented him from getting knocked out in 2 hits. Poliwrath's Slam luckily didn't hit me very hard, but as my luck had to have it, I ended up getting paralyzed, which slowed me down just enough to no longer be able to outspeed Poliwrath, leaving me at the mercy of its body slams. Lucky for us though, Rainy wasn't left paralyzed even once, and 1 final wing attack was enough to earn me my 5th gym badge. There's only room for 1 Chuck in this town, and that's not you. And this is the part of the video where things start becoming exponentially harder, as if they weren't hard enough already. Oh, and it's pretty much all my fault, but you'll see why soon enough. Jasmine Zampharos decided to rudely decline taking my secret medicine, but after taking a couple doses, it seemed to brighten up the whole world. Huh, maybe I should try and take some of this secret medicine too. Now, my team wasn't even close to being able to take down Jasmine, so I needed to find myself a new teammate. I whipped out the good old rod, and it wasn't long before I caught myself the only chance I had to beat this run, a Magikarp who I called Stormy. I mean, my Magikarp would have absolutely destroyed the gym, but unfortunately, it's just not a flying type, so I had to evolve it into a Gyarados and try my luck with her. What a shame. Finally, I grabbed myself the TM for a Flamethrower from Goldenrod City, and then took on the 6th gym leader, Jasmine. Jasmine's team of steel types all resist my flying type moves, and she of course had to have electric type Magnemites to smite me down too, so this was gonna be a tough fight. At least on paper. I sent out Stormy at first to go for a Flamethrower on her Magnemite, and it actually ended up going down in just one hit. Jasmine sent out her second line of Magnemite defense next, but it also fell to just one Flamethrower. I was expecting worse from her, but her not being able to get a Paralysis or a 4 times effective electric move left me in a very good state. Last up was her Steelix, who I was completely prepared to smash out of the park, until Stormy actually missed her first Aqua Tail, letting Steelix get off a super effective Rock Throw. Or not. She ended up missing too. This left me in a great spot to get up an Aqua Tail on her Steelix, taking her down to less than half health, although her Citrus Berry was able to save Steelix from a 2-hit KO here. She then managed to get off a Screech, leaving me super vulnerable to her Rock Throws, which could have had this battle end so badly, but somehow we managed to get a critical hit with the final Aqua Tail, finishing her off and earning us our 6th gym badge. Now, here's where the problem is. I completely forgot that the 7th gym leader's Pokemon are actually lower level than the 6th gyms, which means that I'm not actually able to use Gyarados in this gym at all. Oh, and by the way, Gyarados is the only Pokemon of mine who is not weak to ice moves. So yeah, this'll be fun. The only preparation I really had for this was to evolve my Yanma into a Yanmega, and then it was time to take on Price. Here we go. I sent out Rainy while he of course leads with a Seal. There was really nothing special about my strategy here, apart from spamming Fly and hoping for the best. We actually managed to take out Seal in just one Fly, which was crucial, as now he wasn't able to get an Icy Wind off on us and slow me down. Next up was Dewgong, and this time I decided to try out a Wing Attack to bait it to not go for a rest on the next turn and try to take it out with a Fly right after. I got hit by an Aurora Beam, which did a hefty amount of damage, but we were still able to tank it well. I then went for a Fly to try and take out the Dewgong, but it unfortunately did choose to rest, and thus was able to tank my Fly when it finally hit. Its Sleep Talk then hit me with an Ice Shard, which left me at pretty low health, but after a final Wing Attack, I was able to finish the Dewgong off. Finally, Price sent out his Piloswine, which was really gonna be a tough challenge. Rainy was in risk of dying to just one hit, so I had to start the battle off by going for a Roost, after which Piloswine hit a massive Blizzard, but somehow it didn't do much damage. I once again went for a Roost to play it safe, and this time Piloswine missed the Blizzard, which meant that it was my time to strike. I went for a Confuse Ray on the Piloswine, but unfortunately it still managed to get off a Blizzard, but this time nearly killing me with just one hit. Piloswine still didn't get confused after his second turn and was able to get off an Ice Fang, which actually ended up being a crit yet again, once again leaving me on the brink of death. I had to resort to roosting once again, and thankfully Piloswine finally hurt itself in confusion, letting me try for one more hit. I went for a Wing Attack on Piloswine, which actually did a ton of damage, and to my surprise, he got hit by confusion yet again, letting me get off another Wing Attack, which he healed with his Citrus Berry, but hey, at least it's no longer in use. After yet another Wing Attack, the Piloswine was finally on low health, but it was able to set up Hail, meaning his Blizzards would no longer be missing. Now was my last chance to take it out. Price for some reason didn't end up going for a full restore, so with my very last Wing Attack, I was able to end the battle and somehow earn myself my 7th gym badge. Not even close. My next priority, of course, was to cosplay Team Rocket at the art museum, but our friend Breezes wasn't too happy about that and decided to challenge me to a battle. Well, this time he wasn't such a tough opponent, as I was able to one-hit most of his Pokemon, and when his Feraligatr-wielding Ice Fang was finally sent out, he went for a Thrash. Look, I'm not saying I never make any mistakes, but this guy just never learns. After easily wiping out Team Rocket's leader, Archer, I was handed the Silver Wing, which will come in handy later, but for now, Pidgeotto decided to finally evolve, and I mean, hey, better late than never, but I'm still not going to use you in battle. Nice try. It was finally time for my last gym battle, which was against the Dragon Leader Claire. My team really didn't have much of a chance here, so I did what I had to, and made my Gyarados a special attacker. Yeah, this is not gonna go well. Claire's Gyarados went for a Dragon Rage, and I led off by going for a Thunderbolt, which did a considerable amount of damage, and actually managed to paralyze it, which was super fortunate. I then went for an Ice Beam to try and predict a switch out from Claire, but that didn't happen, and I clearly miscalculated my damage, as she was left on just 1 health. I guess that's what I get for trying to be a smartass. Well, I end up going for another Thunderbolt, and this time it ended up doing a bit more damage, so the Ice Beam actually was the right move here, and for some reason, she chooses to switch out to a Dragonair, which lets me get a massive Ice Beam off, leaving it on less than half health. And of course, another Ice Beam is enough to finish it off. Next up was Claire's second Dragonair, so I keep up my streak of Ice Beams and take her down to less than half health too. She decided to go for a Thunder Wave here, but thanks to my 200 IQ game plan, I had equipped Gyarados with a Cherry Berry, which cured me of paralysis and basically wasted her turn. One more Ice Beam was enough to seal the deal here. Now, that's great and all, but those Dragonairs were never my worry. Her Kingdra was, and that's up next. I could not risk Gyarados dying here, or this run would basically be over, so I sent out Snowy to tank a couple hits. Kingdra let off a massive Hydro Pump on Snowy, who was left at just 5 hit points. But this was enough for Snowy to use Yawn against Kingdra, which was so necessary for me being able to win this battle. It was unfortunately time for Snowy to say goodbye, as Kingdra finished him off with another Hydro Pump. You did well, Snowy, you did well. With Kingdra now asleep, I sent out Rainy and hit it with a wing attack that did some decent damage. I didn't want to waste any of Kingdra's sleep by using Fly, so I just kept hammering it with wing attack until it woke up. I then hit it with a Poison Fang to try and not have Claire use a full restore here, and thankfully this worked out for me, letting me finish it off with one final wing attack. She sent her Gyarados back out, and I thought it was over, so I went for a wing attack, but completely forgot about her full restore, which she used right here. My wing attack finally struck, and to my surprise, it ended up being a crit, leaving Gyarados back to basically no health. And you can guess what happened next. That was my 8th and final gym badge. Next up was the hardest challenge in the entire game, which was to lie to this sweet old man. I had to tell him I don't want to battle weak trainers and that I want to race Pokemon with love and not violence. I'm basically lying through my teeth here. Say what you want about Claire, but hey, at least she's honest. Now, remember the Silver Wing I mentioned earlier? Well, now it's time to finally put it to use and catch myself the strongest flying type Pokemon in SoulSilver. A Skarmory. Look, I know it's not necessarily the best Pokemon in the world, but there really aren't any good flying types available at this point, so I have to make do with what I have. I used my Master Ball on her and called her Hail. I also didn't feel comfortable taking my Pidgeot to the Elite Four, so I decided to grab myself one final Pokemon, which was a Doduo called Hurricane. Now, there really wasn't anything left to do but take on my final challenge at the Elite Four, so let's do this. I have to admit, I took each and every one of my Pokemon to the brink of the level cap, because my flying types honestly kinda suck, and I will need every single edge I can have to beat this challenge. Here we go. As usual, Will sent out his Xatu, and it was time for me to test out Hail in battle for the first time. Xatu went for a Confuse Ray right off the bat, and who would have guessed it? Hail hit herself in Confusion. Luck was really not on my side this run. On the next turn, Xatu went for a Psychic, which we tanked pretty well, and after snapping out of Confusion, we went for a big Night Slash, taking Xatu to less than half health. And for some reason, Xatu Zaru went for a me first, which was literally the worst possible move in this situation, but I'll take it. That let me get off yet another Night Slash, finishing the Zaru off. Next up was Will's Jinx, and after being hit by a Psychic and healing up with my Citrus Berry, I let off a super effective stab boosted Steel Wing, which took it out in just one hit. Executor was sent out next, and his Reflect was going to render my Night Slash useless, so I started off by going for a Metal Sound to lower her special defense. I then decided to try out an Air Slash, and thankfully I got a crit, letting me KO the Executor in just one hit. Slowbro's Curse would yet again be a problem for my Night Slash spamming tactic, so I continued on with some more Metal Sound. Slowbro hit Hail with a Water Pulse, but it wasn't too bad, so I decided to try out an Air Slash on the next turn. But one Air Slash wasn't even enough to take her down to half health, so I'd need to go for a Metal Sound yet again. She luckily just kept spamming Curse and not hitting us, so after one final Air Slash, I was able to KO the Slowbro. Zaru V2 was next, and after getting hit by a Psychic, Hail's special defense ended up getting lowered, forcing me to switch out after my next Night Slash. Oh, it was a crit. Looks like my luck finally turned around. And hey, that was our first battle won. Poison wielding Koga was up next, so once again the smartest play here was for me to send out Skarmory. I air slashed his area though, stealing well over half his health and even making him flinch. This let me go for one more air slash and take out the spider without a struggle. Fortress was my next foe, but he was pretty much unable to hurt me. So after trying to stall with Protect for as long as it could, I was able to go for a Metal Sound and then air slash it to less than half health, once again making it flinch. My luck was finally turning around as I went for one final air slash to finish it off. Koga sent out his scariest Pokemon next, his Crobat. Now, even though he doesn't have any moves that would outright knock me out, he has Double Team, which could end up being a massive pain. So I tried my best to hit a Metal Sound, and somehow I did. After getting hit by a Wing Attack from Crobat, I managed to hit my Air Slash. But it didn't hurt the Crobat too much, and I knew there was zero chance of me taking down this Crobat with Hail. This forced me to switch out into Stormy and try my best to set up my way out of this. Stormy's Intimidate was also great here, as it was the only reason I could safely go for a Dragon Dance and attempt a Waterfall on the next turn. After getting hit by Crobat's third Wing Attack, I was able to get off a Waterfall and take him down. Last up was Koga's Muck, and let's be honest, when has Muck ever hurt anybody? One Waterfall was so close to taking it out, but it survived and got off a Minimize, which could be really bad. Koga used a full restore on the Muck, but luckily I was still able to hit my Waterfall, but it managed to survive once again on just a sliver of health. Koga yet again just kept full restoring, and this time his plan worked, as I finally missed my shot. This time though, Muck was destined to die, as just one non-crit Waterfall finally took it out, and we are now halfway there. Bruno was my second to last opponent, and his team is full of fighting types, so this really shouldn't be a challenge. As usual, I lead with Hail, and I promise this isn't meant to be boring, but I'm gonna need to use him against Onix, so just bear with me. For some reason, Hitmontop went for a quick attack, literally only dealing 6 hit points of damage against me. Interesting choice, Bruno. My Air Slash did less than half of Hitmontop's health though, so I was forced to go for a Metal Sound next. I then went for the finishing Air Slash, as Bruno just kept hoping that Quick Attack would do something. Spoiler alert, it doesn't, and I was finally able to take it out. Hitmonlee was sent out next, and I realized that he actually won't be sending out Onix until it's worth it for him, so I switched out into Rainy, who easily tanked Hitmonlee's Blaze Kick. I then went for a Fly with Rainy, and as you can probably guess, it was an easy one hit. Like I predicted, Bruno was now ready to send out his Onix, and this is of course when I switch right back into Hail to tank his Rock Slide. Steel Wing was my best move here, but I actually ended up missing, letting Onyx set up a Sandstorm for free, which really wasn't too bad for me, but annoying nevertheless. On my next turn, I'm able to get off this Steel Wing, doing just enough damage to knock it out in 2 hits. Onyx does manage to get off a Rock Slide, but it does nowhere near enough damage to phase me, so I go for one more Steel Wing and finish off the fight. It was time to switch back into Rainy, and after tanking an extremely weak Fire Punch, I decided to go for a Roost to try and heal up a bit, but this was a big mistake. The reason for that is Hitmonchan's Thunder Punch actually ended up paralyzing me, slowing me down and letting him hit me twice before I was able to get off my fly and take it down. There was no chance that Rainy would survive even 1 hit from Bruno's Machamp, so I had to send out Stormy here to cover for him. I completely forgot about Stormy's Intimidate, but it really came in handy here as I was able to tank its Rock Slide with relative ease. I then sent out Hail and then went back into Stormy to get off another cheeky Intimidate, basically rendering the Machamp useless. So after tanking its Cross Chop like nothing, I went for a Waterfall, and although its Citrus Berry saved it from being a 2-hit, it actually ended up flinching from the hit, letting me safely set up a Dragon Dance. After tanking one final Rock Slide, I went for the last Waterfall, and this was enough to take out the 3rd Elite Four member. Last but not least, I was faced with Karen, whose team was going to be a really tough fight if I didn't lead with Stormy. My only chance to win here was to set up Dragon Dance with Gyarados and try to take out her Pokemon as fast as I can. Umbreon thankfully did not go for another double team, choosing to hit me with a really weak Feint attack. I then went straight for the Waterfall on the next turn, dealing massive damage on the Umbreon. The Umbreon, however, got off a double team, which I really didn't like. I didn't want to take any risks here setting up any further, so I went for a Strength, and as Karen chose not to heal, I was able to take out her Umbreon. Murkrow was Karen's next Pokemon of choice, but an Ice Fang from Stormy made quick work of her. To be honest, at this point I had Dragon Danced so much that I would inevitably make quick work of all her Pokemon. Houndoom fell to a single Waterfall. Vileplume's weakness to ice made it an easy knockout via Stormy's Ice Fang. Last but not least was Karen's Gengar, and as you can probably guess, one Waterfall was enough to seal the deal. And just like that, each of the Elite Four members were defeated, and all that was left for me to do was to beat Lance and become champion. Now, I wish I could tell you I had some magical secret plan to defeat him, but I was relying completely on Stormy to do absolutely everything in this battle. If he got crit, it would basically be over, but let's see what happened. My strategy at the start was just to intimidate Lance's Gyarados a bunch, until he was no longer a threat. Gyarados did choose to go for a Dragon Pulse, but Hail was easily able to tank that, and the Waterfall it tried to hit Hail with was absorbed easily by Stormy. After just 2 intimidates, I decided that it was time to rock and roll. Lance's Gyarados was initially faster than me, but after just 1 Dragon Dance, the tables had turned. After the 2nd Dragon Dance, Lance tried to go for another Dragon Pulse, but it really isn't doing much damage. I think he may have forgot that Gyarados is a physical attacker, but hey, let's not tell him. It just makes my life way easier. After yet another Dragon Dance from me and Dragon Pulse from Lance, I decided to go for another Dragon Dance. It's perhaps not the most exciting strategy, but hey, the game's the game. At this point, Stormy felt invincible, so I went for a Strength against Lance's Gyarados, and surprise surprise, it was an easy one-shot. Or so I thought. His Gyarados somehow lived on literally like 1 health after 4 Dragon Dances. How is that even possible? Well, luckily his Dragon Pulse still wasn't enough to kill Stormy, and as I knew he was gonna full restore on his turn, I decided to go for one last Dragon Dance to really secure the knockout here, and thankfully it was enough to KO the Gyarados. Aerodactyl was up next, but a super effective Waterfall was always gonna knock it out, even without the Dragon Dances. I do almost feel bad for his Dragonites though, because one by one, each and every single one of them fell to Stormy's Ice Fangs. Well hey, at least you tried, guys. Last but not least, Champion Lance sent out his feared, all-powerful trump card in Charizard. This guy's moveset and EVs make him a formidable... Wait, he's already KO'd. Oh, well, I guess that's it. You guys better like and subscribe if you made it this far. See you later.